look at designing and building steps, and it can be quite a tricky problem because obviously you've got to get from the bottom to the top. I'm sitting on some steps at Felly Priory over in Nottingham, and you can see here that there's probably a step up of about I would say about 150, 170, which is okay. You're looking for about a 30-degree angle on your steps is a really nice set of steps. We'll have a look at the regulations in a minute, but normally you want about 30 centimeters at least for what they call your tread or the going, and the height, what's called the riser, aiming at about 170 or as close to that as you can works really well. However, in some cases you can't achieve that and you end up having a slightly higher.
So in order to work out how many steps you want, what you need to do first is to measure the difference in height between the top of the steps and the bottom. You can do this with a quick set level or a laser level, or quite simply by putting a straight edge across the top with a spirit level and measuring down with a tape measure. Once you've got that, divide that distance measured in centimeters by 17. You might be fortunate, it might work out as in this case 170 divided by 17 equals 10 steps. So if it doesn't work out, for example, let's say it was 180 divided by 17 and you get 10.588, round this up to 11, then divide 11 into 180, and that will give you the height of each riser. Now you can factor in, if you want to, a slight fall on the steps to allow drainage, so that will need to be taken into consideration. But that's how you work out how many steps you want.
This is an exquisite set of steps. Look how they've got the wider base at the bottom, and it gradually gets diminishing a little bit each time. You've got the fleabane at the bottom, which is the ridge on here, adding a bit of extra emphasis. You've got a lovely wisteria there framing that backdrop. This is really arts and crafts design. You've got this lovely superb special block on the side linking into the balustrading. You've got the sort of treads are built into the wall, which makes that interesting. Even the balustrading is nicely angled back.
So the ideal angle for steps is about 30 degrees. And that's perfect to make it a nice transition up and down the steps. What you don't want to do is exceed 42 degrees, otherwise it's getting too steep.
So these are labelled with these two nice pillars at the bottom. Just helps to set the steps out. Ideally what we want is even steps, even treads, or the going the same on each step. On these, unfortunately, you go 1, 2, 3, and they do vary a little bit. It starts to narrow here, so not quite so good. Here we've got a landing, and landings are quite good because it gives you a rest when you're going up quite a big set of flights. The difficulty with these is you've got a landing here, then you do 2, and you've got another landing, so they're not sort of regular, and then we go up to the top. So looking at these steps, these look quite even in the risers and the treads. Now the treads are probably only about 200 mil, 8 inches maximum, so they're a little bit small, but having said that, you've got to get from here to there, which is quite a height in a short distance. So they've had to narrow the tread right down, and I think about 8 inches is about the sort of minimum, if you like, that you can do. But looking at the risers are good because they're about the same. So the risers are good, and they've got a landing at a good point, because that's, you know, about just over halfway in this case, so I can rest, and then you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you've got to the top. The other good thing, of course, again, to help you when you're coming down, when you've got a small tread, is you've got the rail on the side. So this makes it nice when you're coming down and because there could be a possibility of stumbling and falling. So here again, another perfect set of steps. Look at the detail at the bottom with a little bit of wrought iron work. We've got a twist. So in these steps, the way that they've enhanced them is by adding a beautiful arch over the top, and then you've got a nice rambling or climbing rose to go over the top. You could use Handel or New Dawn or Rambling Rector or something to go over the top. And on the sides here you can see they've used a Teucrium. The Teucrium is quite an old-fashioned plant, and it mirrors the priory building in the background. So in this one it's been enhanced with lavandula, lovely lavender there, head-cut lavender, and or you could use angustifolia or Munster dwarf. Got a honeysuckle and an Anisra to the left, and another rose over to the right. But it all adds to make a set of steps more interesting. It's a lovely piece of ornamentation. Just look at the slight curves there. Just makes those steps much more interested on that sort of wall. Just that little bit of curve coping, and again the handrail, and it just sets them off beautifully. So here we've got another interesting style of steps using specially mitered bricks to get a very slight wedge on them, slight voussoir, and again you've got the wide steps at the base gradually getting smaller and a nice platform. Steps, we've got sort of a basket weave pattern leading into the step. So what we've got to do here is a series of cuts. So across here, what I've done is this will just sit at the top, and I'm going to do like a slab on top of the wall. So what I've been doing is cutting. So essentially I'll put a little bit of bed of mortar. You can use, if you don't want to use mortar, you can just use sand and water just to bed them temporarily. Leave a 10mm gap, that's your index finger, and then you can pop that into position. I'll just hold this one up here a second. So that's there, and then all you've got to do really is where you're going to mark it out with, scribe that out. So I've just got just using a little Sharpie pen actually, and just put a couple of marks on there just so you can join up the dots, and you can cut that down all the way around. And once you've cut it, what I've done one earlier just to show you, that will sort of go in there like that, and then you've kind of got your cuts there, and now that's just about ready to put the slab on top to finish that, and then that will give us an angle for when we put the glass, give us basically a parallelogram, and then there'll be a top rail, safety rail to come down the steps. So I'm just going to rejig that mortar just to line it up a bit. And now we're going to have a look at some steps. So just been building up the sides of the steps, and what we're going to do here is sort of we're going to do 3 steps. So obviously when you do a step, you've got obviously we've got to consider when we do a step what the ultimate height's going to be, and in this case we're going to be up to, by the time we've got the extra brick on and we've got a slab on, so we're probably looking at about, if with about a 25mm slab, 22 or 35mm slab, we're going to have up to about 600 we've got to get to. So we've got step 1, step 2, step 3 is going to have to be up to about 600. So you're obviously going to divide, if you've got 3 steps, you're going to divide that by 3, so you want to be aiming at 20 centimetres at least for each step. Obviously 2 bricks is 150, 6 inches, but there will be the thickness of the slab and a bit of mortar as well, and the slab will slope slightly. So by the time we haven't chosen the slab yet, so I can't tell you what that's going to be. So what I'm going to do today, because we don't know which slab we're going to use yet, is to put some concrete in and use some blocks to build like a platform here, and that's what we're going to have a look at. So I'm just going to get the trowel, I'm going to level this off. Now I know a block is about 4 inches wide, so I can level up just made up some 6:1 concrete, knock this up, and we'll pop that in there like that, pull it in a bit. What we're going to do, we're just going to pop a block in place and tap it down, and then when that's gone off we can we can use that to build off. So what I've got here, I've got a block, and to use these blocks up in the build, we can actually drop one of them in. I can come back a little bit away, it's a little bit high, so I've gone a little bit high there, but I've also got to think about the slab, the thickness of the slab and things like that. So actually, by the time you got your slab, obviously we don't want to see the top of that, so and looking at the distance here of the tread, we're going to be about 90 centimetres to there. There'll be a little bit of overhang, so it's going to be at least 30 where the front of the wall will go. So essentially what will happen is this will get knocked down to a suitable level, so I'll get that down, we'll get a spirit level, and we'll just check that. So here we go, so that's pretty level that way as well, just double check, just gone out a level a bit that way, so pretty level there, we'll do the same one here, but of course, so by the time we get our slab and mortar, that's going to be well hidden, so you're not going to see this block, you definitely don't want to see that. Okay, so I'll put another one in there, and then what we'll be able to do, we'll be able to build off that, so we could come in roughly, when we come to do it, come in about 30 centimetres, and we'll be able to build off that, and that will form the face, or we could use an engineering brick actually to make it the same. So we can put a layer of bricks across there, and then that will run through. I mean, you could bond it into the wall as well if you wanted for extra strength, but that'll be okay. That'll be there, and we'll get 2 courses, and then that'll be ready for the next one, and then the third one will go up onto here. So that's a little job we're doing. It's one way doing steps. Obviously you could cast a big concrete base. Some people even lay it on the back of the slab, which is a bit not so good, because if ever you've got to get your slab out because it's cracked, it creates a problem. And we use SBR just to coat the slabs underneath, which will help.
So the ideal angle for steps is about 30 degrees. That's perfect to make it a nice transition up and down the steps, What you don't want to do is exceed 42 degrees, otherwise it's getting too steep.